We are getting some evidence now about contingency planning for hard Brexit, turning motorways into temporary lorry parks, even deploying the RAF. Is it going to come to that?
That's a very, very good question. I see probably a 20% chance of a no-deal hard Brexit, this idea that the UK could just roll out of the EU in March 2019 by accident. I would think there would be some significant disruption in March 2019, even if the worst scare stories that planes couldn't take off in London headed for Europe didn't come to effect. The mere fact that people anticipate that uncertainty means the economic consequences would be quite significant.
OK, let's take that further, Callum, and stress test that worst case. Britain crashes out of the EU, either by design or by accident by March 2019. Uncertainty undermines confidence, undermines economic activity. What would the economy look like then?
That's exactly right. Well, there are two elements to that question. First element is the demand side impacts in the short run. Higher uncertainty, probably higher inflation because sterling would fall. It would largely be a repeat of the scenario after the Brexit vote. The UK economy actually did okay after the Brexit vote, but all of those fears, all of those risks that could have happened but didn't, those fears would be live again. But the bigger question would be the long run impact. The second element is the supply side consequences. Inside the EU, the UK can manage growth of around 2.1% on average. Outside of the EU, in a hard Brexit, I would expect that growth rate to fall by 1.5%, 0.6 percentage points. That is a very bad economic policy decision indeed.
Now, Callum, take a step back here, if you would, and think about these comments from Mr. Hunt. I mean, is he really talking through his hat here? Because essentially what he's saying there is, you know, if the EU doesn't play ball, then the British opinion of the EU could change. But I mean, at this point, does Brussels really care?
Well, look, in a way, what the British think is slightly besides the point. The EU are aiming for a deal with the UK. The UK is aiming for a deal with the EU. So the focus should be on achieving that deal, not what happens if you don't. I can say with some confidence that if the UK and the EU don't agree any future trade deal, there'll be just as much animosity on the continent towards the UK as in the UK towards the EU. It won't really help anyone. But all said and done, I don't think that is my base case. My base case is for probably a semi-soft Brexit, where the UK and the EU agree a trade deal in goods that does enough to keep the Irish border open and keeps the UK plus Northern Ireland intact. I see probably a 60% chance of that semi-soft Brexit outcome. So that's 3 times as likely as a hard Brexit.
And Callum, all of that, of course, rests on Theresa May's, the confidence in Theresa May's government. I mean, where is she today from where you're sitting?
Oh, Theresa May is in a reasonably strong position insofar as she is the critical link between the UK and the EU. She's the one link that has lasted throughout the whole Brexit negotiations. Remember, the key point is that within the Conservative Party, the Brexiteers and the Remainers fear that if the government were to fall and Theresa May leaving her office in number 10 could be the first block in that scenario, and snap elections were to happen, they fear that Jeremy Corbyn could win in a snap election. In essence, the Jeremy Corbyn risk, the threat from the left, is the glue that binds the Conservatives together. So the fear of having a socialist in number 10 is partly the reason the party, the Conservative Party, is happy to keep Theresa May there.
Callum, what's the mood in Brussels? Is it get out of the club and you can't have any perks or privileges, or are they in the mood to offer any sort of concessions at all to Britain? And if I can also ask you, what are the implications for Bank of England at this point?
Well, it's certainly not jovial, let's put it that way. The UK is leaving the club. This is a divorce, let's not forget. The key point is that in goods where the EU exports more to the UK than it imports, the 27 would be rather happy with a trade deal. In a way, the cake and eat it policy is mainly an EU prerogative, not the UK. In services, if the UK is willing to end free movement, that is it.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.